Carolina right back in. Necas using his speed. Stopping at the left wing circle. Up for Smith. The deflected shot. Rebounds out front. They score! Eric Robinson stays with it. And Mr. Robinson's 10th of the year puts the Canes in the neighborhood. It's a 2-1 game. Staal back for Burns, and it's deflected out in front as Martinook got the stick to it. Now Svechnikov ties out front for Staal. They score! And now Martinook across for Staal. He scores! Short-handed! Now the captain also with a big hand in it. He has now got goals in 2 straight games and 2 here tonight. And I will try to put this one into existence, Tripp. He's got 3 hat tricks in his career as Martinook comes into the corner trying to center it. Out in front for Staal. Staal with a redirect. Here come the hats! Jordan Staal, the deflection out in front. And the hat trick for the captain puts Carolina up 5-3.
Yep, that's exactly what happened tonight. Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner Podcast, brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. Don't you know, if it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. What? On Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Wow, that was fun, wasn't it? Didn't look like it was going to be fun at the beginning. I wonder how many people at 2-0 went, you know what? I got to wash my hair. I have to feed the gerbils something. I don't know why I came up with a gerbil. I really don't. Are they still a thing? Are gerbils still a thing? It was a dreadful start, and we're going to get to it in some detail. But I think that there are 2 big takeaways from tonight. Two big picture takeaways from tonight, and we'll spend some time on them. I'm probably going to go through a couple of things before we get to the bigger picture. The biggest takeaway tonight was that it's okay for the captain to get on the score sheet. And I'm not trying to throw shade. It's not really what he does. But again, it isn't something that he doesn't do or shouldn't do. They are around the goal all night long, just about every game. And it's only because they are not gifted offensive players that they don't score more. And I am talking about Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook. But his line is almost always excellent. And it was tonight. They gave up some chances. They played against Austin Matthews and company. They were going to give up some chances, and they did. But they were, for the most part, really good, and they had the puck and made stuff happen offensively. So we'll get to more of that in a minute. And I was impressed with Pyotr Kochetkov's ability to put Tuesday night behind him. And even though he was not culpable at all on 2-0 Toronto, or 4-2 Toronto, I thought Kochetkov really had to rally and kind of keep Carolina afloat. I actually think he made a great save when it was 1-0 Maple Leafs to prevent it from going to 2-0, the Nylander breakaway. But I thought Kochetkov, especially in the third period, was exceptional. Got one of my 3 stars. And Kochetkov right now is just, we're close. I think we're close with him. I don't know if we're going to get there or not, but right now I think we're close. And again, bouncing back from that game last night and then falling down 2-0, no fault of his own. Actually, I was talking to Tripp about this. I had more of a problem with the Nylander shot that hit the post, which I believe was the second shift of the game. Gosh, it was an awful start. It was a comedy. It was Keystone Cops-esque start. We're going to talk about that, probably the first thing we're going to do. But I'll just give you a rough outline of what we're going to do, and then we'll say hi to folks. We're going to talk about the captain. We're going to talk about Andrei Svechnikov. We're going to talk about Jackson Blake and Juha Jaska. We're going to talk about the power play, which I actually think showed some strides tonight, and maybe we'll have some other news and notes, if you will. And of course, let me remind you first that coming up on Sunday is the Eric Staal night, where his jersey will go up into the rafters. I've got a bunch of things planned for tomorrow's radio show that, by the way, if you follow the Adam Gold Show on and listen to the podcast that we put out, Victoria pumps out all the interviews. There should be a lot more. Plus, we've got to figure out a way to get what we're planning for Eric's, not for Eric, but for the show regarding Eric's jersey retirement ceremony. Anyway, stay tuned to the Adam Gold Show podcast feed for that, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you should download this. If you're on Twitter and you're asking me to tweet out the link, look, that's fine. I normally do. You could simply subscribe to this on YouTube and you'll find out about it. It'll show up. It will automatically alert you. Hey, Gold's about to spew nonsense about the Hurricanes. There you go. So subscribe, like, whatever it is you have to do. It'll show up automatically for you. All right. Let me talk about the first period first, because here's what I'm pretty sure happened to a lot of you. Now, I'm not saying that you threw anything at anything, but 2 minutes in, it's 1-0 Toronto, and we'll explain why. 7.5 minutes in, it's 2-0 Toronto, and look, I see things. I know how you are. It was not a good start. It was a terrible start. And it could have been worse, way worse than 2-0. So I think in the first 3 minutes of actually it was after the goal. It might have been sooner. Dmitry Orlov whiffs on a pass at the blue line. He's trying, I don't remember who he's trying to pass it to, but he whiffs on the pass. So he loses the puck at the offensive blue line. Toronto goes the other way. They end up with a 2-on-1. William Nylander, who hasn't scored in 8 games before tonight, beats Kochetkov, but couldn't beat the inside of the far post. Shot came from the right, couldn't beat the inside of the left post. Honestly, if it is a quarter of an inch further to the right, it goes in. It's a post and in. It was just a terrible play by Orlov. Then Jarvis did have a tip try. And then Ty Smith can't get to a puck in the corner. It was a terrible shift all around. It was a giveaway. I forget who, one of the forwards gave the puck away. And then Jesperi Kotkaniemi is in the slot defending, to an extent, Nick Robertson. Dude, on defense, if you're not comfortable playing the puck on your backhand, at least knocking the puck away, I don't know what you're doing. It was terrible. I loved Kotkaniemi yesterday. His line was good tonight. I'm not sure he was good tonight. I think tonight it was about the two wingers. I think tonight was about Robinson and Necas more than it was Kotkaniemi. Although I honestly might not have paid close enough attention to him in the second and third periods. But that first period, woof, that was bad. Again, I don't think he was Carolina's worst. We should do an anti-3 stars. Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield would have got the gold and silver medal for bad in the first period. It was really bad. The Nylander Nylander breakaway goal happened because I believe did Chatfield get his shot blocked, or did he have the puck just taken from him? I thought it was a blocked shot. I didn't see a replay. ESPN, I know there's a lot of you out there that are mad at ESPN because you didn't like the announcers. It is what it is. They're not going to be homers, and who knows. But they didn't feed replays to the TVs upstairs. I don't know why. Did Tom Dundon not pay the bill or so? I don't understand. But ESPN normally when it's an ESPN Plus Hulu game, the TVs here get fed ESPN replays. We didn't get that tonight, so I don't know. Maybe the Hurricanes decided that they didn't want to play ball with ESPN. I have no idea what the deal is. Anyway. I didn't see replays of basically anything. I thought Jackson Blake, when he scored his goal, beat Joseph Wall just inside the far post, and as it turned out, it went 5-hole. Well, what do I know? Anyway, so Robertson scores the goal to make it 1-0. Then you have the Chatfield block shot. I thought it was a block shot. Breakaway for Nylander. He makes it 2-0. Meanwhile, at 1-0, Kochetkov stopped a William Nylander breakaway. The shot that beat Kochetkov for the first scoring chance, the 2-on-1, which ended up going off the inside of the post, was also Nylander. So he came in having gone 8 games without a goal. He's one of their best goal scorers, if not their best goal scorer. He had 8 games without a goal. He could have had 4. In the first 10 minutes of the game. He had so many scoring chances. It was crazy. He scored on his third one. And I believe Ryan Henkel of the Hockey News both made the same joke on Twitter. Third time's a charm. Actually, I just wrote third times ... I pretty much can figure out the rest of that saying. But that was it for Toronto. And Carolina, to me, the biggest play of the game was Eric Robinson's goal that made it 2-1. Bigger than Jordan Staal's goal that tied it. Bigger than Jordan Staal's goal shorthanded early in the second that briefly gave Carolina the lead. Bigger than Jordan Staal's deflection, high tip for the hat trick. Those are all awesome and worth discussing. But the Robinson goal just allowed Carolina to breathe. First of all, it's second time in as many games on home ice they got down 2-0. This time, the 2-0 lead for the opposition, in this case the Leafs, didn't last very long. So the Hurricanes got even, and I think they played a pretty sound game. The only other goal that they allowed was the power play goal early in the second period after Carolina had already scored shorthanded. They didn't allow a ton else. There were some scoring chances, some good ones, but Kochetkov was really good tonight. He was exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see Pyotr Kochetkov be really good for 60 minutes. And we got all 60 of good Pyotr tonight. But you had Orlov whiffing on a chance. Aho, I wouldn't call it a pass back to Orlov. I would call it a fortunate deflection. But either way, Orlov's got to have the puck. He blew it. And the Leafs were getting scoring chance after scoring chance after scoring chance early. They got their 2 goals and nothing else. So I thought Kochetkov really got one of my 3 stars. I said that earlier, I believe. I just think he played a really solid game. He didn't have to be spectacular, but he had to come up with big saves. And that's what you're looking for. I mean, that's what they really had in Tampa until they didn't. The very last shot of the game for the Bolts was the goal that put him ahead with 52 seconds left. So, of all the elements that this team needs to be successful in the short term, in the long term, there is no more important element than goaltending. And we can discuss, if you want, a little bit of goaltending stuff, not how to play the position, but how the position is being played and by whom is winning the division. But Kochetkov had to be very good against Toronto. He beat him twice last year. He had to be very good. Toronto has too much firepower. Matthews is back and scoring. He scored tonight. William Nylander, as I mentioned, had gone 8 games in a row without a point. No, that drought's over. And he had the goal that made it 2-0. But we're just glad that the period ended. Chatfield didn't play well. Orlov was awful. And Carolina's top line had a hard time settling into the game. Not sure they did at all. I do wonder if we're going to start seeing maybe a couple of different, flips of positions. We saw it in like 3 shifts in the third period, where at one point he had Blake and Drury playing with Svechnikov, and he had Yaska up with Staal and Martinook. I think that was late, but I don't believe it was a partial line change. It might have been related to, I don't know. I can't even explain it. I can't even begin to explain some of the kind of strange line combinations we saw. I honestly think it was probably just a shift or two that Rod wanted to just see something. We didn't see Aho, Jarvis, and Blake. On home ice, I'd like to see it. You can control the matchup on home ice. I really would like to see that because I thought that was an electric trio down in Tampa. I guess 2 nights ago, almost 2 nights ago, because we are dangerously approaching Friday. But once the first period ended, and it was 2-2, and I just don't think you can underestimate just how big it was to get out of the first period still 2-2. Because the truth of the matter is that the Leafs, even after Carolina tied it, I'm not sure they weren't still the better team. It was probably a little bit more even, and Carolina did put, I think, a little bit of a flurry on late. But, I mean, I think over the whole, I thought the Maple Leafs were the better team in the first period, and yet Carolina got out of it 2-2. Really good. And then you start the second period. Burns picks up the high stick. Carolina gets the shorthanded goal from Martinook to Staal. Really good pass, by the way, by Martinook. And then you turn around on the same power play. You give up the goal to Austin Matthews. So it's you're back even again at 3. But again, even at that, I kind of thought Carolina was okay. There was some panic, though. There was some panic out there on those Twitter streets. I get you. I see you, Hurricanes Twitter. It's a little goofy. I get it. That's fine. But the rest of the way, after the first period was over, and even in some moments of the first period, I think the head coach probably really liked the way Kochetkov played. That's just a hunch, since I have not spoken to him, but I will speak to him tomorrow. Maybe it'll come up. But I think I'll bet you he was pretty pleased with the way Kochetkov went about his business today. Look, there are still some issues we need to work out. I still think they need depth at that position. I still think they need another NHL goalie, but it looks like they're probably going to wait it out until Frederik Andersen comes back and hope that neither of them get hurt again. It's kind of wishful thinking. I wouldn't go with it, but it looks like that's the way they're going to go. Anyway, I thought there were a lot of good things tonight. Let's go through a couple more. Let's talk about the fact that Andrei Svechnikov, I don't think he loves playing with Jordan Staal, but if it gets Andrei back to playing the game that he's supposed to be playing, more physical, more north-south, not as much east-west, then what Kochetkov put out here tonight, that was a really, really good start. That was a determination, a physicality, a willingness to engage. That was just a very power-forwardy performance from Andrei Svechnikov. Now we got to see it again. We got to see it tomorrow against Villanova, against Vancouver. We got to see it Sunday for Eric Staal night against who are they playing? Anaheim Ducks. So we need to see even another step in Andrei's development. Look, I got into too silly, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that the arguments are silly, just the conversations, because we just talk in circles. But there was, let me just give you the second one. Somebody blaming Jim Rutherford for the plight of the Hurricanes, which, sorry, don't follow at all. Complained that Rutherford didn't bring in enough talent, didn't draft well, and he only listened to the owner. He's the owner. I'd listen to the owner if the owner had something to say. That's just me. I'm not rebellious in that way. But the Hurricanes have drafted well. Every team's going to miss on a draft pick. The Hurricanes have drafted well. The Hurricanes have developed well. Remember, Jim Rutherford actually drafted Jacob Slavin and Brett Pesce. All right? He did that. And I just think to be critical of Jim Rutherford at this point, like he never, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into it. It's crazy. But I mean, this was the kind of a performance tonight that after the first period, when you wash that away, that's more of what you need. I thought they were absolutely on top of it completely in the second period. Second period better than the third period because the second period was so good and they were so dangerous. They could have scored more than the two that they scored, which in the grand scheme of things, kind of Carolina's problem of late. Although I thought we saw better from Necas. And obviously Robinson played very well. He was one of my 3 stars. I didn't love the top line at all. And I'm kind of waiting for Jackson Blake to show up there. But maybe you want to leave the fourth line alone since Drury, Yaska, and Blake were on it tonight. They were awesome tonight. And even they had their own issues, like managing the puck at times. But at least it was like they were struggling just to get the puck to each other. It was just a weird kind of night that way. But Blake is absolutely coming. Yaska is a nice player. I'll just remind you, I watched him a lot in the preseason. And I think I said this on one of these podcasts when we were kind of going through the team and the roster. And I thought, well, there's no room for him. But I think he can play. I know he can play. And I'm not saying you make room for Juha Yaska because, who's he playing ahead of? But I like him in the lineup. I mean, he's not going to play over Carrier, right? He's not playing over Will Carrier. So that's a good piece. I think it's a good piece. I love the way he plays. It's very direct. I think he's aggressive. He's got good speed. He's not awed by the situation. And right now, It looked like he and Jackson Blake had a little chemistry. I think Jackson Blake can play with anybody. So I'm not worried about breaking up a successful pairing. But I think Blake and Yaska did form a little bit of a bond. And I will say that you can't keep him in the lineup when Carrier comes back, but I almost hesitate to break that lineup the way it played. Drury was very good. Blake was dynamic. Yaska really is a good blend in that line. So I'm not saying you're lucky that William Carrier got hurt so you can look at him, but I think the kid can play in the NHL. And if there's another injury, first of all, if when Carrier comes back, he goes right back in the lineup. We don't even ask questions. But you're going to have more injuries, and now you have a player who can come up and play in the NHL. I think Yaska proved that he can be, at the very least, a fourth-line winger in the NHL. Blake, I just kind of glossed over it, didn't mention that he scored. And I did mention that the Aho-Jarvis-Blake combination in the third period in Tampa was, honestly, Carolina's best line. That's how good they were. They were their best line and only played a third of the game. So I do think that Yaska can play. I do think that Blake has earned the opportunity to play up. And I talked to Rod Brindamore before the game. You could tell when I asked him about Blake, because I think Blake's been playing great lately, that he knows he's got to find a way to get Blake more involved. So, very good. A couple of things I didn't like. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't like it. I liked the fact that the power play looked better. I still think they're trying too many passes that aren't there. And at this point, everybody knows that they're trying to make stretch passes, long diagonal passes. They're trying to pass the puck right across the crease. Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see them use behind the net more. I would like to see more low to high on the power play. They're not really doing that. They don't have anybody really playing behind the goal line. And I actually loved when Carolina played. Vincent Trocheck was great at it. He could play below the goal line. I think they need more of that on the power play. So, but 0 for their last 17 with the man advantage. 0 for their last 17. That is not ideal, as he says, obviously. Real quick, here were my 3 stars, but there were more than 3 stars in this game. Kochetkov got my 3rd star. Boy, that was a good sign. It was a good sign to see him bounce back and be, I think, better in the 3rd period than he was in the first 2. So he got my 3rd star. I thought Robinson made the play of the game for Carolina. He got my 2nd star. And, I mean, the captain had a hat trick. We haven't even talked about him yet. Well, he probably likes it that way. Although it was cool to see how much he enjoyed. You enjoy scoring 3 goals, so I don't take it like no duh. Yeah, that's right. I just went no duh. But for he gets rewarded. And I know that they asked him this question a lot in the locker room. We heard it here on the post-game show. In that after every loss, everybody goes right to Jordan. Let's go to the captain. It's kind of the way it is, right? Isn't that kind of the way it is? That the captain is there protecting the locker room as best he can. It's kind of what it is. But it was good to hear Jordan smile. And I think you can hear a smile. He played a dynamite game, got rewarded with 3 goals, used his stick on the deflection on the hat trick goal, not his foot. He scored with his skate in Tampa. That would have tied the game. So he's now got 4 goals in his last 2 games. My gosh. Staal for the Hart Trophy. So, yeah, that the captain has a way of reminding you that he is really good at this. Now, do I think he is NHL Hall of Fame good? No, I don't. But I also think he is an outstanding player, a better player than I thought he was when Carolina traded for him, however many hundreds of years ago. I remember my one feud with Jim Rutherford, at least the one that I know about, was when I openly questioned him. Did you give up too much for Jordan Staal? And apparently Jim Rutherford had heard from multiple hockey people that Carolina fleeced whoever they got him from. But good stuff. All good stuff. Now you got to back it up against Vancouver tomorrow. And did you give up too much to get forgot who the player I was talking about to get Jordan Staal? And Jim didn't appreciate it because everybody thought it was a great trade. As it turned out, it was a great trade. The only players, I think there was a draft pick in there, but they gave up Brandon Sutter. Sutter was just a good player, solid player. But Jordan Staal is an elite version of what Brandon Sutter was. Brian Dumoulin, the defenseman, he was part of that deal too. And Dumoulin right now is kind of, I'm trying to think where he is. It might be Anaheim. But they're basically done with him. He's just, Dumoulin was like, to me, a good, maybe a 4th defenseman, but he's probably a 3rd pair. On a good team, he's probably a 3rd pair. I know he played a lot for Pittsburgh in his heyday, if you will, if he had a heyday. But, yeah, not much there. So the Hurricanes really didn't give up too much. They did give up a first-round pick, but you were getting back an elite defensive player who had some offense, because if you look at his history, he's got some offense. And his brother happened to be Carolina's captain when they moved for him. Never worked out the way those two guys wanted, but still. Jordan's been an outstanding Hurricane, and one day I do believe we'll be back here talking about Jordan Staal, Hurricanes Hall of Famer. I'm not talking about name goes up into the rafters to never be worn again. I'm not talking about that. But, I mean, he might be a Hurricanes Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I know if you ask the head coach right now, he'd put him in. All right, so now Carolina's just got to go at it against Vancouver tomorrow night, and then Sunday for the big Eric Staal showdown with his number going up. And isn't it cool that the captain got his scoring weekend off to a good start? We just need like 6 more from you, Jordo. 6 more, that will be enough. I believe I've rambled long enough here on the Canes Corner podcast, brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew did a great job. They always do a great job. You should check them out, aluminumcompany.com. Until the Canes take on the Canucks tomorrow night, which is almost tonight, if you understand what I'm saying. I am Adam Gold. Good night.